John Murphy rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the unusual patterns on his monitor. For 3 nights straight, the Deep Space Listening Array had picked up the same signal from beyond Neptune's orbit. At first, he thought it was just cosmic background noise, but the mathematical precision was impossible to ignore. This wasn't random. This was a message. "Hey, you need to see this," he called to his colleague across the NASA communications lab. The signal grew stronger each day. Within a week, observatories around the world confirmed what Murphy had discovered. Something was approaching our solar system, and it was changing course deliberately. Lisa Grant sat at the head of the emergency United Nations meeting, her normally neat hair showing signs of the sleepless nights she'd endured since being appointed head of the International Space Defense Initiative. The room fell silent as she stood. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have confirmed first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her words. "And based on their approach vector and formation, we do not believe their intentions are peaceful." Screens around the room displayed the incoming fleet. Dozens of ships arranged in what military advisors identified as an attack formation. The largest vessel was nearly the size of Manhattan. "How much time do we have?" asked the representative from India. "At their current speed, they'll reach Earth orbit in 7 days," Lisa replied. "We need to prepare for all possibilities." Rather than the panic many had predicted would accompany humanity's first alien encounter, a strange calm settled over the world's governments. For centuries, humans had imagined this scenario in books and films. Now that it was happening, ancient rivalries were set aside with surprising ease. Russia and the United States immediately shared missile defense technologies. China opened its quantum computing facilities to international scientists. The European Union converted its satellite network to create an early warning system. On the 6th day, as the alien fleet passed Mars, they'd broadcast their first message. It came simultaneously to every television, radio, and digital device on Earth. "People of the third planet, we are the Araxian Empire, rulers of 300 star systems. Your world has been selected for integration into our realm. Surrender your resources and accept our authority, and you may continue to exist under our protection. Resist and face elimination. You have 1 planetary rotation to respond." The message was followed by images of worlds being destroyed, civilizations falling to the Araxian war machine. It was meant to terrify humanity into submission. In an underground bunker beneath Colorado, General Pete Wilson watched the alien message with 50 other military leaders from around the world. "They're trying to scare us," said Colonel Maria Diaz from the Brazilian Air Force. "Standard psychological warfare." Wilson nodded, but they don't understand who they're dealing with. Humans don't scare easily. While official channels prepared a response, the planet's defense systems were activated. Satellites were repositioned. Missile silos opened. Submarines moved into strategic positions. Fighter jets were armed and fueled. On the morning the Araxian ships entered Earth orbit, Lisa Grant delivered humanity's official response. "Araxian Empire, we have received your message. Earth welcomes peaceful contact with all spacefaring civilizations. However, we do not surrender our sovereignty or our resources to threats. We invite you to establish diplomatic relations as equals. Otherwise, be warned that any hostile action against our planet will be met with the full force of our united defense capabilities." From his command ship, Admiral Kroval of the Araxian fleet was puzzled by the response. The scout reports had indicated a divided planet with nations constantly at war with each other. Yet now, they spoke with one voice. Most planets surrendered immediately upon seeing the Araxian fleet. Those that resisted never lasted more than a few days. "They are primitive," he told his officers. "Their most advanced vessels can barely reach their own moon. Begin the first phase of the conquest protocol." As the Araxian ships moved into attack positions, they failed to notice that Earth's orbital satellites were tracking their every move, analyzing their formation weaknesses, and transmitting data to defense systems below. They didn't see the submarines silently launching specially modified missiles from the oceans. They couldn't detect the stealth aircraft approaching from the atmosphere's edge. The Araxians had conquered hundreds of worlds, but they had never encountered humans before. They were about to learn why that was a grave mistake. Admiral Kroval studied the blue planet on his view screen with growing frustration. The initial scans made no sense. Most civilizations the Araxians conquered had a single planetary government, a unified military, and centralized power centers that could be quickly disabled. Earth had none of these things. "Explain this to me again," Kroval demanded of his chief intelligence officer. The humans organized themselves into nearly 200 separate political units called nations, the officer replied. Each has its own military, government, and defense systems. They compete with each other and have fought countless wars among themselves. Yet they responded to us as one, Kroval said. How is this possible? None of his officers had a satisfactory answer. The Araxian Conquest Protocol relied on removing the head of government and controlling a planet's unified defense systems. Earth's fragmented power structure made this approach useless. On Earth, Commander Kate Simmons prepared to lead humanity's first face-to-face meeting with the aliens. Her team included diplomats, scientists, and military personnel from 12 different countries. "Remember, we're playing for time," she told them as they boarded the transport aircraft. "Every hour we keep them talking is another hour for our people to analyze their technology." The meeting was arranged in a neutral location, an empty airfield in Switzerland. The Araxians arrived in a small shuttlecraft, clearly designed to intimidate with its imposing black hull and weapon systems. 5 aliens emerged, tall beings with gray-blue skin and 4 arms. They wore ornate armor that hummed with energy fields. Their leader stepped forward. "I am Sub-Commander Vextor. I speak for Admiral Kroval and the glory of the Araxian Empire," he announced. "We are here to discuss the terms of your surrender." Kate stepped forward calmly. "I am Commander Simmons. Earth has not agreed to surrender. We are here to establish diplomatic relations." The alien's expression showed surprise, then amusement. "You misunderstand. We do not negotiate with primitive species. We are here to inform you of how your integration will proceed." While the meeting continued on the surface, the Araxians secretly deployed scanning technology to assess Earth's military capabilities. What they found alarmed them. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, chemical weapons, drone technology, stealth capabilities, and most concerning of all, evidence that humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing each other. Meanwhile, in a secured facility beneath Seattle, Steve Collins typed furiously at his keyboard. The former military hacker had been recruited for the most important job of his life, breaking into alien communications. "They're using quantum encryption," he muttered to the room of intelligence specialists. "But there's a pattern in the fluctuations." After 18 hours without sleep, Collins found what he was looking for, a backdoor into the Araxian communication network. Information began flooding his screens. "My God," he whispered. They'd done this hundreds of times before. The data revealed the Araxian conquest strategy, a standardized process they had perfected over centuries. First, intimidate the population. Second, destroy major military installations. Third, eliminate government leaders. Fourth, extract resources while subjugating survivors. But the Araxians had never encountered a species like humans before. Back at the diplomatic meeting, Sub-Commander Vextor was becoming increasingly frustrated. "Your species lacks the unity to be a true civilization," he said dismissively. "Your different languages, governments, and cultures make you weak." Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Perhaps you should consider that what you see as weakness, we see as strength." As the meeting concluded without resolution, Vextor returned to the Araxian command ship with troubling news. "Admiral, these humans are unlike our previous conquests. They seem almost eager for conflict." Kroval dismissed the concern. "All species resist at first. Their primitive weapons are no match for our technology." "There is something else, Admiral," Vextor added. "During the diplomatic meeting, We detected unauthorized access to our communication systems. Kroval's expression darkened. Impossible. No primitive species has ever penetrated our security. But the evidence was clear. Somehow, the humans had already begun to understand Araxian technology. The standard conquest timeline would need to be accelerated. Prepare the fleet for the first strike, Kroval ordered. We will show these humans the price of defiance. As the Araxian ships moved into attack formation, they remained unaware that Earth was already 3 steps ahead in a game the aliens didn't know they were playing. The Araxian attack began at dawn. 117 orbital strikes hit military bases across Earth simultaneously. Bright beams of energy cut through the morning sky, leaving destruction in their wake. Admiral Kroval watched from his command ship, satisfaction evident in his posture. This was how it always began. A show of overwhelming force, followed by the inevitable surrender. The humans will contact us within 1 planetary rotation to offer their surrender, he told his officers confidently. But something unexpected happened. The humans didn't surrender. They fought back. At Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada, the smoking ruins concealed an underground bunker where pilots raced to their aircraft. The base above was destroyed, exactly as planned. The real facilities, hidden deep below ground, remained untouched. Similar scenes played out across the planet. The Araxians had targeted what they thought were Earth's military headquarters, unaware they were hitting decoys constructed in the days since first contact. In Moscow, Beijing, Washington, and other capitals, real command centers operated from hardened facilities, hundreds of feet underground or mobile platforms constantly on the move. 6 hours after the initial attack, an Araxian fighter crashed in the Arizona desert. Dr. Alan Howard arrived with his research team within minutes. The 43-year-old engineer had been studying alien propulsion theories for 20 years, never expecting to see actual alien technology in his lifetime. Get it to the facility immediately, he ordered as military personnel secured the crash site. And be careful with the propulsion system. Within 4 hours, Howard's team had the alien craft partly disassembled. By hour 8, they understood enough about its weapons systems to begin adapting the technology for human use. It's actually not that advanced, Howard told the Joint Chiefs of Staff during an emergency video conference. They've been using the same technology for centuries without significant innovation. We can work with this. Around the world, similar breakthroughs were happening. In Japan, scientists decoded the Araxian shield frequencies. In Germany, engineers reverse-engineered their targeting systems. In India, computer experts cracked the operational codes of captured Araxian drones. The aliens had expected primitive resistance. They encountered organized adaptation instead. When the Araxian ground forces landed near San Diego, they anticipated quick victory against inferior weapons. Sam Rodriguez, a Marine Corps sergeant with 3 combat tours behind him, led his squad toward the alien landing zone. Remember your training, he told his soldiers as they moved through the rubble of what had been a shopping mall. They're bigger than us, but they're slow. Use that. The aliens advanced in tight formation, their energy weapons cutting through concrete and steel. Rodriguez watched their movements carefully. They used the same tactics humans had abandoned a century ago, massed forces moving in predictable patterns. When the aliens entered the trap zone, Rodriguez gave the signal. His soldiers attacked from multiple positions, using modified weapons loaded with ammunition designed to disrupt the alien armor's energy fields. The adaptations had been made just hours earlier, based on data shared by scientists worldwide. 6 Araxians fell in the first 30 seconds. The others, confused by the unexpected effectiveness of human weapons, broke formation. That was when Rodriguez led the close-quarters attack. He reached the first alien, avoided its clumsy swing, and placed an explosive charge directly on its armor joint, exactly where Japanese scientists had identified a weakness. The explosion disabled the alien's armor systems completely. A soldier's body camera recorded Rodriguez standing over the fallen Araxian, humanity's first close combat victory against the invaders. The video was shared globally within minutes, boosting morale and providing tactical information to fighting forces everywhere. By nightfall, the Araxians had achieved only 30% of their first-day objectives. Their standard conquest timeline was already failing. On his command ship, Admiral Krovold received the disturbing reports. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their weapons should be useless against our technology." "The humans are adapting extremely quickly," his science officer replied. "They're learning our technology and developing countermeasures at unprecedented rates." For the first time in his long career of planetary conquests, Krovold felt something unfamiliar: uncertainty. "Launch the second wave," he ordered. "We will crush their resistance before they adapt further." But as the second wave prepared to deploy, Earth's first coordinated counterattack was already underway. 3 days into the invasion, Earth's factories had completely transformed. Assembly lines that once made cars now produced armored vehicles fitted with reverse-engineered alien technology. Pharmaceutical plants created medical treatments specifically designed for injuries caused by Araxian weapons. Electronics manufacturers built communication devices that could penetrate alien jamming signals. The speed of this transformation shocked even the humans themselves. Companies that had been fierce competitors for decades now shared patents, designs, and resources freely. The common threat had united humanity in ways no one thought possible. In her university laboratory, Professor Laura Martinez hadn't slept in 36 hours. The physicist stared at the captured Araxian shield generator, watching how it pulsed with energy. "There's a pattern to the frequency shifts," she said to her team of international scientists. "It's not random. They change in predictable sequences." Martinez typed furiously on her keyboard, inputting a new equation. The simulation on her screen showed a human-made energy pulse precisely timed to the gaps in the Araxian shield cycle. "That's it," she exclaimed. "Their shields are completely vulnerable for 0.3 seconds every 12 seconds. If we time our weapons to hit during that window." Her discovery was immediately shared with military forces worldwide. Within hours, weapons were being modified to exploit this critical weakness. Meanwhile, in Iowa, agricultural scientist Paul Davidson examined soil samples taken from areas where Araxian ground troops had established bases. "They're extracting specific minerals," he told the Emergency Scientific Council during their video meeting, "and they're processing them through their life support systems. I believe these are essential elements their bodies need." Davidson looked at his notes before continuing. "If we contaminate these minerals with compounds that are harmless to humans, but toxic to their biology, we can make Earth literally poisonous to them." Across the planet, similar breakthroughs were happening hourly. The Araxians had expected to face primitive weapons and limited resistance for at least 30 days before encountering any significant adaptations to their technology. Instead, humans were developing effective countermeasures within hours. In the skies above North America, the first squadron of fighter jets equipped with modified Araxian weapons technology prepared for combat. The pilots had trained on simulators developed just days earlier, based on the flight characteristics of captured alien craft. Captain Ben Howard led the squadron toward the Araxian support vessels currently positioned over Chicago. "Remember, aim for the shield gaps," he told his pilots through the secure communication system. "Hit them exactly as timed in your targeting computers." The jets streaked through the clouds, their new weapon systems humming with power. The Araxian ships detected them too late. The human fighters had been modified to evade alien detection systems based on data gathered by Steve Collins' hacking operation. Howard locked onto the largest support vessel and fired. The missile passed directly through the momentary gap in the alien shields and struck the hull. The explosion ripped through the Araxian ship, sending it plummeting toward Lake Michigan, where naval forces waited to secure the wreckage for further study. Similar coordinated attacks happened simultaneously around the globe. By the end of the day, 40% of the Araxian orbital fleet had been destroyed or disabled. Admiral Crowell could not believe the reports coming from his remaining ships. No species had ever adapted so quickly to Araxian technology. No conquered world had ever mounted such an effective defense. His carefully planned invasion timeline was now completely useless. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "We believe they are sharing information globally," his intelligence officer replied. "Every discovery made anywhere on the planet is immediately available to all their forces. They are learning collectively." This concept was alien to the Araxians, whose empire was built on strict hierarchies and controlled information. The idea of open collaboration between different nations, companies, and militaries was something they had never encountered before. Crowell made a decision. "Launch all remaining ground forces immediately. We must establish control before they develop more countermeasures." As the Araxian dropships descended toward Earth's surface, they had no way of knowing they were flying into traps designed specifically for them by a united human resistance that grew more effective with each passing hour. The Araxian dropships landed in strategic locations across Earth. One of their main forces established a base outside Denver, Colorado. The aliens expected to face organized military resistance. They did not expect Frank Williams. Frank taught high school chemistry before the invasion. Now he led 30 civilians who had refused to evacuate. None of them had military training, but all of them had skills the aliens never anticipated. "The compound is ready," Frank told his group as they gathered in his garage-turned-laboratory. "Their armor uses a metal alloy that reacts with common household chemicals. When mixed properly, the reaction generates enough heat to melt through their protection." Frank had created simple bombs using everyday items. His knowledge of basic chemistry had turned ordinary people into an effective resistance force. Similar groups formed worldwide, sharing their discoveries through secured networks. 50 miles from Frank's position, an Araxian commander led his troops toward a small town. According to their intelligence, the area contained valuable mineral deposits. They expected minimal resistance from such a remote location. They were wrong. The town's residents had prepared for days. Farmers had transformed their equipment into weapons. Hunters used their knowledge of the land to set traps. Even the children played important roles as lookouts. The Araxians entered the town in standard formation. Moments later, homemade explosives detonated beneath their feet. Snipers targeted the joints in their armor with specialized ammunition. Farm machinery modified with scavenged alien technology rammed into their flanks. The aliens retreated in confusion. Their combat training had not prepared them for this kind of resistance. They were used to fighting organized armies, not entire populations willing to defend every inch of ground. Similar scenes played out globally. In Russia, farmers collapsed mountain passes onto alien supply lines. In Brazil, indigenous guides led resistance fighters through rainforests to attack alien mining operations. In Kenya, wildlife rangers used their tracking skills to hunt Araxian scouting parties. The aliens struggled to understand why humans fought so fiercely for land that wasn't even under their own country's control. The concept of people from different nations helping each other made no sense to the hierarchical Araxian mind. One of the most effective resistance leaders was Elizabeth Carter, a former park ranger with extensive survival training. She now commanded a multinational force specializing in capturing Araxian technology. "Their equipment is the key," she told her team as they prepared for a night raid on an alien communications post. "Every piece we capture gives our scientists more to work with." Elizabeth's force moved silently through the forest. Her team included soldiers from 7 different countries, each selected for specialized skills. They communicated using hand signals and encrypted short-range devices developed to evade alien detection. The raid took less than 10 minutes. The Araxians never saw them coming. By the time the aliens realized they were under attack, Elizabeth's team had already disabled the guards and begun removing key technology from the facility. "We got what we needed," Elizabeth said as her team loaded the captured equipment onto vehicles. "Let's move before reinforcements arrive." The stolen communication array would be in a research facility within hours, adding to humanity's growing understanding of Araxian technology. On his command ship, Admiral Kroval received increasingly desperate reports from his ground forces. Their standard occupation protocols were failing across all theaters. The humans adapted too quickly, fought too fiercely, and cooperated in ways the Araxians had never encountered. The primitive species is not following expected behavior patterns, his chief military advisor reported. They do not surrender when their formal military units are defeated. Instead, their civilian population continues fighting with improvised weapons and tactics. Kroval had conquered 32 worlds during his career. None had presented challenges like Earth. His forces were designed for quick, overwhelming victories against conventional opposition. This endless, innovative resistance from all sectors of human society was wearing down his troops. Our ground forces have secured only 17% of planned territories, the advisor continued, and we are losing control of previously secured areas due to constant guerrilla attacks. Kroval made a decision he had never made before. He opened a channel to the Araxian homeworld. "This is Admiral Kroval requesting immediate reinforcements," he said, each word painful to his pride. "The Earth situation is more complex than anticipated." As the message traveled across space, human resistance forces were already preparing for the next phase of their defense. They had no intention of giving the Araxians time to regroup. Admiral Kroval paced the bridge of his command ship. The reinforcement fleet would arrive in 3 Earth days. Until then, his forces had to hold their positions and minimize further losses. "We have never failed to conquer a target world," he reminded his officers. "Earth will not be the first." But his words lacked their usual confidence. The humans continued to surprise the Araxians with their adaptability and determination. Even now, his sensors detected unusual activity at several human space facilities. In an underground laboratory beneath Houston, Dr. Nicole Foster worked with a team of international scientists on their most ambitious project yet. The remains of 7 captured Araxian ships surrounded them, partly disassembled to reveal their propulsion systems. "The principles are actually quite similar to our theoretical models," Nicole explained to the military officials observing their work. "They use controlled gravitational fields to bend spacetime. We've been researching this concept for decades, but they've perfected the engineering aspects." Her team had been working nonstop for days, adapting Araxian technology to human spacecraft. The first prototype was almost complete. "How soon can it be ready for deployment?" asked General Johnson. Nicole looked at the modified space shuttle, now fitted with alien engines. 24 hours if we skip the final safety checks." "Do it," the general ordered. "We need to take the fight to them before their reinforcements arrive." Half a world away, at a secret facility in the Gobi Desert, the best pilots from a dozen nations trained on simulators designed to mimic Araxian ships. The simulators used data collected from captured vessels and observations of alien flight patterns. Captain Eric Taylor scored highest in the combat exercises. The former Navy pilot had a natural instinct for space combat that even the instructors couldn't explain. "You're thinking 3-dimensionally," he told the other pilots. "In space, there's no up or down. No horizon. You have to let go of those limitations." 20 hours later, Eric stood before the UES Defiance, Earth's first spacecraft equipped with Araxian technology. The modified shuttle looked strange with its new propulsion system and weapons, but its capabilities far exceeded anything humans had built before. "She's ready," Nicole told him as he prepared to board with his crew of international pilots. "The navigation system works on the same principles as the alien craft. You'll be able to match their maneuverability." Eric nodded. "And the weapons. Based on their own technology, but with our improvements. Their shields cycle every 12 seconds. Your targeting computers will time your shots to hit during the vulnerable moments." The launch countdown began. In silos and bases across the planet, hundreds of modified missiles prepared to launch simultaneously. The coordinated attack would create a diversion for the Defiance to approach the Araxian fleet undetected. As the ship lifted off, communication centers worldwide broadcast the same message to every human on Earth: Operation Turning Point has begun. The missiles launched first, streaking toward the Araxian fleet.